Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to MindShifters Radio. My name is Michael Rice, and the genie is on the line with me, and we're here to support you in the process of healing. We're going to have a special show today. We've got Ken and RT from intherooms.com that will be joining us. We're going to do a 2-hour show today. Ken will be with us in RT for about the first hour and the first 45 minutes or so. And also Terry and David from Heartland will be joining us, and we'll be talking about how the whole process of inner healing, as we work with it, fits with the 12-step program.
And we already have Terry and David both online.
Awesome. Well, In the Rooms is a website dedicated to people in recovery, and a networking site, a site to connect, somewhat like Facebook, only for people who are in recovery and working the 12 steps. So we're delighted to be part of that community, and intherooms.com will be supporting or is sponsoring a workshop that we're doing tomorrow in Pompano Beach. Tomorrow from 2 to 6 o'clock, we'll be doing a free workshop, Why Is This Happening to Me Again, sponsored by In the Rooms, and it's going to be at BRT, a recovery center there. And, of course, it's not limited to people in recovery. Everybody's welcome. And that's at 2413 East Atlantic Boulevard in Pompano. The zip code there, if you've got a MAP program, it's 33062. And we'll do that tomorrow starting at 2 o'clock, 2 to 6.
And we've already got a question.
All right.
Unless this is one of our other gentlemen that's coming on. 954-646, you're on.
I don't know where I'm on. Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Yeah, this is Kenny and RT from In the Room.
Awesome.
Have you. Delight to have you. And, Jeannie, can we bring David and Terry on at the same time?
They're already on.
All right. So, David and Terry, this is Ken and RT from In the Rooms, who are sponsoring our workshop tomorrow in Pompano. And
the workshop is Sunday. Michael, the workshop
Saturday
is on Sunday.
Sunday, yes.
From 2 to 6.
Sunday from 2 to 6, absolutely. I'm a day ahead of myself. We've been just kind of doing this whirlwind tour in Florida, and so a few minutes ago I was thinking that today was Thursday, and now I've got it as Saturday. So, yeah, Sunday from 2 to 6 in Pompano. What can I say? So, Ken and RT, you guys want to tell us a little bit about In the Rooms for starters, so that everybody that's on can get a sense of what you're doing? I think it's awesome. It's one of the most welcoming sites I've ever logged into and been welcomed to. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, hi, this is RT, and In the Rooms is an online social network for the global recovery community. It's free for the people who are seeking help, who are already in recovery, and their family, friends, and allies. We have 126,000 members plus currently in over 50 countries, and we have over 17 different 12-step fellowships represented.
That's fabulous.
Yeah, our concept originally was to bring recovery to everybody. You know, we're here in South Florida, and we're lucky. There's hundreds and hundreds of meetings a week. But there's people in certain spots in this country and around the world and who are bedridden or in hospitals, or young mothers with kids that can't make it to meetings, or there isn't a lot of meetings in their area. So this brings it right to their fingertips, and they can have recovery 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with hundreds of people at the same time. And, this is the day and age of social networking. It's not coming. It's here, and we think the recovery community was ready for this.
That's awesome. And, there's a quote that I like to use. I use it often in my work, is that if you want to go quickly, go alone. It's an African proverb. If you want to go quickly, go alone.
if you want to go far, go together, and it takes a community to open the energy and the space of that healing process. So accolades to both of you guys for setting up and making such a huge contribution to the recovery community and to the world, because, of course, we're all in recovery. Nobody's any different. There's a fellow from, I believe it was Sweden, who worked in the prison systems, and he wrote a book entitled "We're All Doing Time," and it's time for us all to recover from the insanity of our culture and get back to our human lives, to actual human lives.
Oh, we agree. We agree with that, and we appreciate you having us on your show. It's always nice to tell people what we're doing, and because it's still new. You know, there's people all over the world that don't know about us, of course, because we're new. We're 2 years old, and most of our growth has come virally through the internet, because that's just the way it happens today, unless you have a lot of money to advertise, which we don't. But we're growing steady and nicely and right on target for where we want to be.
Well, it's pretty awesome that you're at 120,000 members plus already, and of course, this show will be available when it's over. We'll make sure that everybody knows it's out there, so they can hear more about what you're doing, more about what we're doing, and how it all ties together. So, awesome. Do you want to share a little bit about anything about your story or where you guys are at?
Oh, sure. This is Kenny P., Mr. Clean on In the Room, and this has been a passion for us. Both Ron and I have been in long-term recovery ourselves. I just celebrated 28 years, and RT 27 years. And so this is a passion for us. And the way it all started, I'm a photographer, and I was on a website for photography, and I had shared that I was in recovery. I shared with one woman who was having a rough time with her daughter, and the next thing we knew, we started getting lots of emails, people pouring out, because either they were in recovery, some other family member, and it led to the idea that, wow, wouldn't it be great if we had addicts, alcoholics, people in recovery had our own website, our own social network that we could go to. I was working with RT. I went into him. I said, what do you think? A Facebook for recovery? And he said, sounds like a great idea. And we've never looked back. This has been much bigger than we ever thought it would be. And yet, like RT just mentioned, we talk to people every day that are just finding us and can't believe that intherooms.com was there and they didn't know about it. So we've got a long way to go. But that even makes it more exciting.
Yeah, it's awesome. You've got, how many millions of people in how many countries who are potentials to benefit and be supported by what you're doing. And certainly we're traveling a parallel road with the work that we've developed and from another perspective, but absolutely parallel. In fact, I just went over the 12-step. I have the little brochure, the 12 Steps Illustrated, and kind of went over the steps that we use in our reality management, the forgiveness process from the Aramaic. And, I mean, it just ties in absolutely perfectly, which, of course, anything that works has to tie in. And so it's a delight to be joining forces and moving forward the healing of every mind, heart, and being on the planet. Terry, you've been doing the recovery game for a little while. You sponsor several people, and you started doing this work about 7 years ago. Do you have anything to share about how you tied this together? I know you've been doing recovery work for 25 years. How you tied this together with what we're doing at Heartland. And Terry is now the resident artist at Heartland. He's been there for over a year now and been involved in the work for several years and supporting us and taking it to the next level and tying it together with the recovery work.
Yeah, first I want to thank Ken and RT. This is a great job on In the Rooms, and the excitement that I'm feeling and connecting with that. It's really nice. I was sharing with someone else about the experience of In the Rooms, and that I was a little surprised that I got the same type of connection and feeling that I experienced in connecting with folks, at the meetings, live and in person. It was like, I was feeling that same shared bond there, which I thought was very nice. One of the meetings, the closest meeting to Heartland up until just a few weeks ago was about 30 miles away, and it was over in a little town called Gainesville. And the first time I went there, we asked about the bathroom, and they pointed over to a 2-door outhouse. The bathroom, there's a man and there's the woman's side and the man's side. And I opened up, I got to check this out. Of course, the woman's side was all nice and neat and had a little doilies and stuff in it, and you can imagine what the guy's side looks like. That was my introduction to Ozark recovery there, So recently there's had some local meetings started here. And to have in the rooms and to see what's happening with that is really nice. One of the things that attracted me to Why Again and the Why Again work was that, just like with the 12 steps, we have practical tools, directions, and steps and that help us to get where we're wanting to go. We've got things that if we apply the tools, do the work, the steps, take responsibility for what's going on, we get better. And I had looked around and checked into a lot of different spiritual teachings and modalities, and most of them, you get up there and the guys will give you a nice lecture, or the ladies, and they tell you about this and that, and then that was kind of it. You go home and say, well, what do you do from here? There seemed to be a little piece missing around digging in and doing something that would actually facilitate some change. And with Michael and what he's put together over the last few decades is a body of work that allows us to clear out these old resentments and fears and angers, those things that we're very familiar with from our 12-step background, and they're practical tools that I have found have enhanced, deepened, and taken my spiritual growth to a deeper and deeper level. Now, we had a great conversation this morning, as Michael had mentioned, around the forgiveness worksheet and how that applies, and we're discussing the different principles that were interwoven in that tool. And I got it. I got this insight. It's like, this is the perfect 10-step tool. This is a daily inventory. I can use this as my daily inventory tool, and it's a tangible, physical tool that I can apply myself to and keep myself on track on a daily basis. That was a real nice insight on that. Well, Paul.
Oh, yeah, we went over the steps this morning and how they tied together, and I think the one thing that you're going to see when we do the workshop on Sunday is that the Aramaic, and it's really a powerful process of how to collapse all the results of denial and get directly to the core of those faults and those character defects. And when we can get directly to the core and ask God's help in moving them, they move. And so they really fit really awesomely well together. And I think the biggest contribution we can make is that a shift in the forgiveness process from what the culture generally teaches. Most often our culture teaches that, I've got something terrible and painful happening inside of me. Of course, it's all your fault, but I'll forgive you, or I'll forgive myself, which does nothing to change or put me in touch with the direct core of what it is in me that's causing my pain. The Aramaic forgiveness process is a how-to literally collapse the result of the denial, and all of a sudden you start to see what was previously invisible, that root of the character defect, the root of the powerlessness, the root of the whole process of insanity. And again, exposing that to the active presence of the love of God leaves us quantum leaps ahead. And so it's a perfect match, perfect fit.
Michael, we have a caller. Are you ready to take a question?
I'll tell you what. I was just going to introduce David briefly and have him share a little bit, and so that we're all keyed in and connected, and then we'll take that call.
Okay, great.
David's the center manager. If you haven't met him yet, at Heartland. David, there's RT and Ken. And do you prefer Kenny or Ken?
Kenny is preferable. Thanks.
Okay, Kenny. Anything but late for dinner. Okay.
Right.
So, David, do you have a thought or two to share with us?
Well, thank you, Ron and Kenny and Terry and Michael and Jeannie and everyone for being on this call. It really is amazing when I think about where this work is going, and as Michael pointed out, that when we're in alignment with other principles and disciplines that are out there, then there are appearing magical things that happen. And to think about that there's so many people that are connected now with this work and with the 12-step work, and I've worked in 12-step groups and organizations for a number of years when I was in Nashville, Tennessee, and as one of my friends there said, wow, wouldn't it have been great to be able to have these tools that Michael has developed over the years since then? And everything is always in divine order, and so we know that now as it's come together, then there's going to be even a major shift. And I think that the tools that Michael's developed and the ongoing tools of the 12-step program, that with the additional energy that's added to it, then it's just really going to move things, that people are going to, I think, get some different answers. I think that they will be able to get some support that that opens up to another level of understanding and an experience of that. So I'm looking forward to it, to being able to be part of that, and not looking forward to being part of it. I'm honored and privileged to be a part of that and to be on this show today.
And David, you want to tell us a little bit about Base Camp and how you two guys interacted and what that whole process was about that you were involved in?
Well, Base Camp was a nonprofit organization in Nashville, Tennessee, and it was a veterans organization for homeless veterans. And actually it was started by a man by the name of Jerry Washington and John Deerfield, who was one of the first POWs of Vietnam. And along with that, a very dear friend of mine, Bill Greenfield, who became a dear friend of mine, he was part of that. And I went there as a former Vietnam veteran, and I liked Bill and what he had to say, and Bill recommended that I should be going to AA meetings at that particular time. And for me, I looked at it, I wasn't drinking, and come to find out later within what he told me was, he said, I didn't think that you had a problem so much with drinking, David, as you did with rage. And Michael refers to rage as one of the biggest addictions on the planet, and that's what being involved in the 12 steps, and I was involved in AA, Overeaters Anonymous, Emotions Anonymous. I attended lots and lots of meetings and groups, and our base camp was based in a 12-step program. And at that particular time, we were one of the most successful veterans organizations in the country, and working with homeless veterans. And most people that are homeless are dealing with some type of alcohol or drug issue. And our primary focus was a spiritual program and using the 12 steps in order to support people in getting back to their true essence, their true nature. And that program's still going on today. It's underneath of a different name. It's called Stand Down. And so there may be some people from Nashville that are listening in, and if not, then in the future I know that there will be. So it was all around letting go of issues from PTSD and drug and alcohol, and just any type of issue that was keeping people from living the life that we're all designed and created to live.
Awesome. That's great, David. Let's go ahead and pull that call in, Jeannie, and see who we got and what the question is.
All right, Skype caller, you're on. Hello? Someone from
Hello,
that was calling you on a
what's
Skype?
your name and where are you calling from? You're on the air. Welcome.
Hi, Michael. It's Jeff. Wanted to see you again. Loved our last meeting. You know, I wanted to
Nice.
Okay.
Okay, they just hung
well,
up.
somebody's in a good mood. That's good. All right.
All right, we do have another caller, though. 919?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
919.
919, welcome.
Yes, thank you. This is Michael from Chapel Hill.
Hi, Michael.
So I'm very new to In the Rooms. I'm not new to the program. I've listened to you guys' introduction. I'm just curious. I'll throw it out there. In the Rooms, you guys in your intro mentioned a lot about the 12 steps. What about the 12 traditions? Do you guys have any focus or relationship to the 12 traditions?
Absolutely. The 12 traditions are the rules that bind the fellowships. They keep us healthy. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. I have to tell you, I come from pretty much the right wing element of the program, and I had no boundaries when I got here. I got to tell you, and as a result, that's what kept me steeped in my active inebriation, and I was all over the map. So, certainly the 12 steps got me into my individual recovery, but within the context of a group and a community, I have found the 12 traditions to be really invaluable. Mm-hmm. The longer I stay sober, the more important I believe they are.
You're absolutely right. We have discussions all the time in our forums and the different fellowship discussions about the traditions. There's always something going on about the traditions. So stay tuned. There's always information about it, and we're always looking for new content. So if there's something you want to post, you can. You're a member.
Okay, well, Terry just turned me on to it today. I'm just now looking at it in Facebook, so I'll definitely use you guys as a resource.
Well, and it sounds like you're in. Go ahead.
I got to tell you guys now. I know Michael D there from way back. Mike and I, he's one of the few people that's still alive from when back in the day. When he knows some things about me that a lot of people don't know, and I can reciprocate that with him.
Yeah.
He came walking into a room down in Greensboro about 20-some years ago, and we both said, "Oh my God, we both survived." So that's Mike's a good friend. Thanks for coming on, Mike.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed the conversation.
Awesome.
Thank you,
and
Michael.
Your input about. Go ahead, RT.
Actually, this is Kenny. I just wanted to mention that the caller had talked about our Facebook page. Yes, we have about 25,000 members on our Facebook page, but the real guts of In the Rooms is intherooms.com. And the reason for that is that intherooms.com is anonymous. We hold anonymity sacred, and nothing that you ever put on intherooms.com will ever show up in any of the search engines. Unfortunately, we can't say the same thing for Facebook. You put something on Facebook, and you don't know where it's going to show up. So we want people to be really careful to make sure that they're in intherooms.com. They do have to register to get in there, and the reason for it is that it's for anonymity's sake.
That's a great distinction. Mm-hmm. I wasn't aware of that, Kenny. That's a great distinction. I'm glad to hear that.
Thank you for that. I didn't realize it myself since being a newbie to the online experience, so thank you very much.
Intherooms.com, you'll see a vast difference. I can tell you what we have to offer on our site. It's very in-depth, and it's an entire community. We have 4 ways to communicate on In the Rooms. We have private messaging, instant messaging. We have comments and status updates. We have discussions, hundreds of them every day. We have forums. We have blogs.
Speaker tapes. You can listen to a speaker tape 24 hours a day. You can download it.
And upload your own.
Right. We have some of the best speakers you'll ever hear are in the rooms. And that's one of the things is when you're, like you had mentioned, being far away from a meeting, or this year with the weather, I can't tell you, we get testimonials every day that people have been in the middle of whiteouts or their roads have been closed, and if they're feeling a little squirrely, they know that they can always get connected and stay connected. That's the most important thing.
Great.
You're not alone.
I'll share this resource with others, but before I sign off and just listen, I want to at least give a shout-out to my home group in Chapel Hill, the Tar Heel group. We meet on Wednesday and Saturday night, and that's where I got sober, and naturally I think it's the greatest home group in the world. So I hope you guys, if you're ever in Chapel Hill, you'll come by and visit.
I love Chapel Hill. I used to eat at the Rathskeller there.
Excellent.
Excellent. Well, listen, one thing I got to tell you is we have the largest AA and NA groups in the world. We have 50,000 members in each of those groups, each of the fellowship groups. 50,000 AA members, 50,000 NA members.
Wow.
So a question, Kenny and RT, in the rooms, can a home group come in as a group, become a member as a group, and have a way to, is there a way to facilitate people who are part of a particular home group communicating with each other through in the rooms? Is that something that's been thought of or done? Or?
Absolutely. It's a great idea. Our home group is on there. Absolutely. It's a great idea. If there are any changes in what you guys are doing, or you've got something special coming up for a meeting, you could post it in the calendar. You could put up additional speaker tapes. There's all different types of things you can do, and absolutely there's nothing to stop you from doing that. Feel free to reach out to, I'm Mr. Clean on In the Rooms. Feel free to reach out to me or to RT, and we'll walk you through the process. It's really very, very easy, and I think your group will certainly appreciate it.
Perhaps
one other thing, let me add this. This is RT. Let me just add this real quick. For anybody who's listening, we have a mobile global meeting list for AA, NA, GA, and OA that's all geolocatable. You can go on meetings.intherooms.com, or you can go on intherooms.com and find it, but you can get it from your iPhone or your Android, or right on the internet at meetings.intherooms.com and find any of those meetings all over the world, and it will take you right there with a map.
Awesome.
And you can add your own meetings. You can edit meetings. If the times change, you can do this all yourself right on our site.
Cool. So you've got a social networking site for home groups as well as individuals.
Well, we have a social networking site for the recovery community or those seeking it. It's constantly evolving. We will have online real meetings soon in the near future. So, we're constantly adding new features weekly. So you have to keep checking in and see it. We're right on the cutting edge of every technology that any other social network has.
That's so awesome. Also, you've got a big recovery entertainment day planned tomorrow. I believe you're part of sponsoring one in Pompano tomorrow. That's an all-day event, rockers.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. It's Rockers in Recovery, and it's going to be Ricky Bird from Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, and Richie Supa, formerly with Aerosmith, is going to show up. It's going to be a day of music and hanging out and fun, and we're really looking forward to it. It's going to be at the Seaside Inn. It's a sober hotel in Pompano Beach. And unfortunately, I don't have the information handy. It is on in the rooms, and it's on our Facebook page as well.
That's awesome. That I was really acknowledging John the other day for being part of sourcing something that's clean and sober in the way of a major event like that. You know, it's like a clean event that it sounds like there are going to be thousands of people there.
Sure, it should be perfect weather. It'll be in the low 70s tomorrow, sunny, and listening to music a block away from the beach. I don't know. It sounds like a great afternoon to me.
Yeah, I didn't realize I had an all-day workshop scheduled. I understand it goes till 8 in the evening tomorrow, and we'll finish my workshop around 6, so we might just see if we can slip up there for a couple of hours anyway and catch it and connect. But
that would be
I've
great.
got an all-day workshop. Yeah. So how do we, where do we go from here in tying together or chatting about? One of the things that I did, as I said with Terry this morning, was kind of went through how the worksheet, the forgiveness, what we call reality management process. In the Aramaic, forgiveness is about how you go and fight inside yourself, find the defects, find the insanity, find the hostility or fear or the behaviors. And what I've developed in the work that I've done over the last 40 years is recognize that when we go into denial, we dissociate from a part of our minds. We literally hide it from ourselves, and we have no knowledge that it's there anymore. When it rears its ugly head, we do a behavior out of it, and, of course, after it quiets down, we say, oh, my God, that was terrible. I will never do that again, and everybody sincerely means they'll never do it again. But because that part of the mind is dissociated, you can't change by saying, I'm not going to do that again. You can't critically think about it. You have to collapse it in order to go back directly into it and change its content. And to me, that's the gift that the Aramaic forgiveness process brings. It is a step-by-step, reliable way with which to collapse the product of our denial, and bang, you're just right there. It's right in your face. And everybody who uses that tool, each time they use it, they learn something new about themselves they didn't know yesterday, because that denial, literally, when we deny, what we've discovered with the mechanics of the mind is when we deny, the information we're in denial of, the evidence we're in denial of, simply cannot enter into conscious awareness. We point out some Harvard research that says in a time frame where 10,000 brain cells fire, the max amount of information that can get into your awareness or your reality is 9 bits. And once the 9-bit mind's full, I mean, the evidence, 100 people can stand and say, we saw it, and the person who's got the 9-bit mind full, there's not room for a new piece of information to go in. And what the Aramaic forgiveness process does is it collapses the content of that 9-bit mind so that there is room for new information to come in. And most people kind of with a gasp go, oh, my God, I didn't realize that was even inside of me. Because, of course, the times when it took hold were when there was so much alcohol or so much drugs in the system that the awareness of it was gone. And so that's the piece I'm excited about sharing. And, of course, I've been sharing it for years in the recovery community in different ways. But this is certainly working with you guys, Kenny and RT, at intherooms.com. It's just a whole new level of it, and I'm just excited and delighted to be doing it. And thanks to Barry for connecting us in. Barry Liss was the person who first introduced me a couple of weeks ago with Kenny and RT and In the Rooms. We had a meeting, and it was just kind of a no-brainer to set up the workshop that we're doing on Sunday at BRT in Pompano. And if you want to join us for that Sunday afternoon from 2 to 6, it's a free open workshop. And it's at BRT at 2413 East Atlantic Boulevard in Pompano. The zip code there is 33062. You can also go to In the Rooms to find information about it, or you can go to Why Again, our website, WHY, again, AGAIN.com. And there's a flyer with directions and the information about what we'll be doing. Kenny and RT, what else do you have to share with us about In the Rooms?
Well, I tell you something very good that people can get out of intherooms.com if they register. We send out a daily meditation every morning at 5 a.m. and it's right on the money every morning. So we suggest, that people come on and register. We have a lot of things happening. We can't wait for Sunday to see our community out there, our In the Rooms members, and anyone else that wants to come and take advantage of this opportunity. We think it's great. The one thing you were talking about a few minutes ago, the one thing that, I've been in recovery for 27 years, and I've worked the steps backwards and forwards dozens of times, and I just never, when we spoke about forgiveness, you were saying that we actually, what did you say? I'm trying to think the exact words. We don't forgive, we pardon each other.
Right.
Yes.
And that was,
what
remember I said, wow, it sounds, it sort of rings true. I never realized that. For me, forgiveness is the number one spiritual principle, and recovery is a spiritual thing to us. So, everyone that I speak to is looking forward to working on that aspect of their recovery because it's so important. So maybe you can tell us more about that. About being pardoned rather than forgiving.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's so exciting to see the difference. The original Aramaic work that we're doing comes out of a language that goes back thousands of years, and what we see in this Western culture, especially of forgiveness, comes through a Greek mindset. And the Greek mindset, denial is rampant. It's all everybody else's fault. And, of course, they caused all this pain inside of me. I have no responsibility whatsoever. And when we're in denial, we can't see the part of us with which we're creating our own pain. I kind of tongue-in-cheek offer in my workshop often, as you'll notice if you've been through a particular painful reality 87 different times with 42 different people, you're the one that was there every time. It's about you. It's not about them. But the Greeks taught us it was all outside of us, so here we are. I'll forgive you. I'll let you off the hook for what's happening inside of me, which does nothing to change what's happening inside of me. And the whole world has been duped on that one. And what the forgiveness idea is in Aramaic is you don't, people are kind of shocked when they say, well, I forgave my mother just last week. I say, oh, my God, what a terrible thing to do. Why would you do such a thing? And they're like, well, what do you mean? I thought we're supposed to forgive everybody. And I counsel never forgive anybody for anything ever again. Because when you forgive somebody, when you pardon somebody and think you've forgiven, you won't do your real forgiveness work. And, when you don't do your forgiveness work, then that inner inclination that you'd really like to be rid of, whether it's the rage, the fear, whatever defect it is, it still remains within the structure. And in the Aramaic, the forgiveness process, you don't apply to that person who brought it up in you. You don't apply forgiveness to yourself. You apply forgiveness to the defect or the signal that's coming into the 9-bit mind of the defect, whether it's rage or fear or grief or whatever kind of pain. You apply forgiveness to that, and when you do, what happens is the denied and suppressed part of the mind, the dissociated part of the mind, all of a sudden becomes visible. And you go, oh, my God, where did that come from? I didn't know that was in me. So it's not about, when I hear somebody, oftentimes share with somebody, I'm doing this workshop on forgiveness, say, oh, I don't need to forgive anybody. I've already forgiven my mother, my father, my sister, my brother, my children, my parents. I've forgiven my former spouse, my present spouse. I've been forgiven my future spouses. And what I know from that language is that person has done no forgiveness work yet because it's got nothing to do with letting other people off the hook or pardoning them, which is a nice thing to do. But, Karl Marx says, if you want to destroy a culture, change the meaning of its words. And when we changed forgiveness from a tool with which you go inside yourself and deal with your own character defects to a tool with which you let other people off the hook because you have pain as a result of those character defects, the process of forgiveness was taken away. And so people accumulate those painful situations from generation to generations. And even if someone stays away from alcohol, if they don't ever go into that dissociated mind and change its content, then the family tradition continues. And forgiveness collapses that tradition, puts you into direct relationship with it where you can go, oh my God, I didn't even know that was in me, or I knew that was in me, but I've forgiven everybody about it, and here it still comes to my mind. And well, I forgave my father, but the behavior that he did to me, I still want to do to my children or to my spouse, but I've never done it because I forgave him. And what this does is it goes right to the root of the generational dynamic and removes it totally, uproots it, removes it totally, so you get to the point where the inclination to do that behavior isn't even there anymore. It just totally disappears. So that's kind of, I really see that as the piece that we've discovered from the Aramaic. I'm the director of a foundation, is translating a copy of the oldest known New Testament in Aramaic into English, and that text is not a religious text. It's a text about physiology, physics, and psychology, and when you understand it, it's absolutely awesome. So I'm excited about sharing it with your In the Rooms group.
Michael?
Yes, Jeannie.
First, I wanted to put the call-in number out there. It's 646-200-4169. If you have a question, call in. And we do have one coming from the chat room. And they're saying, can Michael talk a little? Uh-huh.
Before you do that, honey, I just realized, we introduced Terry and we introduced David and Kenny and RT, and of course I'm just so used to you being on the show with me that it didn't occur to me, but Kenny and RT haven't met Jeannie yet. This is my wife, and perhaps some of the others on the show haven't. And
Hi,
so Jeannie is my co-host.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, too. I look forward to Sunday.
Great. We'll see you there.
She's the brains of the outfit.
We already knew that. Of course.
I am so blessed. It's awesome. Thank you for being in my world, Jeannie.
My pleasure. Thank you for being in mine.
All right.
Our person in the chat room says, can Michael talk a little bit about how important staying in the moment is in healing and how our 9-bit mind is creating a past and a future?
Okay, well, we can give a shot with that. I'll tell you what, though. I know that Kenny and RT have just got a couple more minutes. I think you've got another appointment at 1:45?
Yeah, that's correct.
So we're only about 3 minutes away from that. And before we get into that question from our chat room, perhaps there's something else you guys would like to share or say before you have to leave the call. And we'll look forward to seeing you on Sunday.
Well, great. We are really looking forward to it. A weekend filled with recovery events, your workshop, the concert tomorrow. What we're looking forward to is meeting the people that go to In the Rooms, people in recovery, getting hugs, and sharing in some new knowledge. That's always very exciting to us, and putting things together with our learning from the 12 steps. We're really looking forward to it, and I can't thank you enough for coming out and doing this because I think it's something that we're all going to grow from.
And let me say one more thing. This is RT. Sure. Next Sunday, like Jeannie's, your your wife and my wife, Philly T, long-term recovery on In the Rooms, has next Sunday, the 20th, has a 12-step yoga for the soul workshop, which is fantastic. It's a 3-hour 12-step yoga for the soul. It's called. It's in Hallandale at this Omakaya studio. And Sunday night, it'll be up on In the Rooms. You can get all the details for that also.
Awesome. So a week from Sunday in Hallandale, Florida.
Yeah. Yep. Hallandale Beach, Florida. 12-step yoga for the soul is fantastic. Michael, thank you very much. We love you, and you're doing great work, and we hope to get a big crowd Sunday.
Awesome.
Absolutely delighted. One of the other things that I want to throw in, too, that I meant to say a little earlier when you talked about the meditation every day, I don't know who does that, but I love the quotes that they come up with every day. It's one of the first things I look at in my inbox is the quote that's there and read the meditation, and it's so right on.
It's Alan Cohen, A Deep Breath of Life. It's available on Hay House. It's available actually through the meditation. At the bottom there's a link, and they've sold a lot of books going through In the Rooms. Isn't it remarkable how it seems that each day that meditation's right on the money.
I don't know how that works. It's incredible.
How does it know?
How does it know what we need?
So Alan's, you're using Alan's book for the meditation each day?
He's given us permission. Yes, he's given us
awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, he's never done it before, but he gave us permission and in the rooms to use his daily meditation, and it's just been fantastic.
That's awesome, and you'll probably, if it's the same book, he does have me quoted in one of his books. That'll probably come up at some point in the series. That's cool.
That's
great.
Alan does some fabulous
fantastic.
work.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, Alan
he really does.
Fabulous work. Yeah.
We're all
very cool, gentlemen.
Here.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for being with
blessings.
us.
Have the best year yet of your eternal life.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Take care, guys.
Bye.
So, Jeannie, would you like to give us that question again from the chat room? And
Sure. It says, can Michael talk a little bit about how important it is staying in the let me start over. Can Michael talk a little bit about how important staying in the present moment is in healing, and how our 9-bit mind is creating a past and a future?
Okay, cool.
So it's
By the way,
almost like a question.
Your accent is awesome, sweetie.
Thank you.
It is. It's very cool. Even though I tease you about it sometimes. When the first couple of years Jeannie and I were together, I moved to Bristol, Tennessee, while Ryan, her son, finished high school and went off to college. And I found myself one day taking a car into an oil change place and found myself asking them to change the oil. And it's like, oh my goodness, I've been in Tennessee too long.
I told him nobody
anyway.
else caught it except him.
Nobody else noticed. It was just the normal culture. But anyway, it was a fun time being there. So the 9-bit mind is an interesting project, and staying in the moment. If the 9-bit mind is, generally speaking, for most people, run by the content that's in their structure. So if I say, don't think about the color of your car, most people kind of grin, and I say, well, what are you thinking about? And they say, the color of your car. And I offer, number one, you're not thinking about the color of your car, and number two, you're in the past, because everything that comes from this multi-generational database, the information that's stored in our minds, or what we call our minds, it really isn't even a mind, what we have stored within our cellular structure is from the past. And it's governed by a law called the law of resonance. And the law of resonance says that when two energy fields are in tune or in harmony with each other, there's an exchange of information between them. So if I hit a middle C tuning fork on a desk and I put it in front of a second middle C tuning fork, that tuning fork starts to vibrate. When I say, don't think about the color of your car, and someone says, that's what I'm thinking about, the color of my car, I offer, all that happened is my voice, a tuning fork, set up a frequency, your ear, a tuning fork, picked up that frequency, and your brain cells, a tuning fork, simply responded and fired with its content. And obviously that's not thinking. The truth is, if most of us said what we thought, we'd be speechless, because most of us simply run on the firing of brain cells around whatever's going on in our world. You might remember this fellow Yeshua 2,000 years ago said, I am in this world but not of this world. In other words, what is resonating in my mind is not run by what's going on in the world, it's run by my connection to love. And when we can collapse the information stored in this multi-generational database that we call the mind, then that information, that part of the structure gets quiet. It shuts up. One of the tongue-in-cheek lines I love to deliver is that in order to truly heal, you've got to be out of your mind. And we've got to loosen from this thing that keeps shooting stuff up from the past, because its past interpretations aren't true today. They're not accurate, especially when someone triggers something in us from the past, and we put it down to our brain's image of them, and instead of realizing that it's true about us, we think it's true about them, especially if it's something painful, and so we want to point the finger at somebody else for what's in our mind from the past that we have not forgiven. Forgiveness is how you go into that past and remove whatever never belonged. And that's a mouthful, whatever never belonged. Okay. But you remove what didn't belong there in the first place. That's called forgiveness. And all of a sudden, that thing starts to shut up when you forgive sufficiently, and now you get to experience a direct connection with the person you're in front of. You get to experience what's actually happening now in this moment rather than your brain's interpretation of it. And once you do that, you're in the present. And there's a reason why they call it a present, and that's because whenever you're there, there's a gift, there's a present. And that is that we get to experience the presence of the active love of God. And that's the direction we want to head in 24/7, 365, to be in that love. You know, even the physicists will say that, you know, in the universe there's this background noise. We don't know what it is. I know what it is. It's the active presence of the love of God. And whenever we can drop out of our body's multi-generational database and all the yattering and the nattering and the chattering, what in the East was called the monkey mind, once we drop out of it, what's left to fall into is the active presence of love. And in that love, we have our intelligence, our choice, and our capacity as human beings. And so we live in direct relationship with the Creator when we're in that love. And so that would be my take on it. And then as far as the mind creating a past, a present, a future, if we take that database and something comes along and resonates, it fires it, then whatever fires in it tends to fill our conscious awareness, our 9-bit mind, and we'll tend to think that that's what's actually happening in the moment. Whenever there's hostility or fear, what we're experiencing in our minds is not what's happening in the moment. It's an hallucination from the content of that database. And if we live in that, we tend to project it as our future. We tend to experience it as our present. And the truth is, it comes from our past. It's dead. It's over. It's done with. But every time somebody comes along and resurrects it, because we haven't worked through it, it takes over and runs our lives again. And so the idea is to get past that dynamic by actually putting the pen to the paper with the forgiveness process. And the forgiveness process, again, is not about letting others off the hook for what's going on inside of us. The forgiveness process is how you change the content of your carbon-based memory, of that database in your mind.
Awesome. Okay, and we also have a Skype caller. Skype, you're on.
Hello?
Hello?
Hello, Skype.
Hi. You're absolutely right with your discussion about the universe and everything. And
who have we got and where are you calling from?
We're getting a little bit of feedback there. Maybe you can turn it down and we'll be able to hear you better.
They just disappeared.
Oh, okay. Call back in. We lost you there. Apologies.
Maybe they'll call right back.
Okay. We'd love to hear what you have to say.
Well, if you all can hear me, I think Michael just disappeared. So I'm going to sit here and continue talking until he gets clicked back in. And
I can hear you, Jeannie.
Okay, awesome, good. Sometimes I'm not sure whether when he gets disconnected, whether I still stay on or not. So while we're waiting for him to come back on, then I will announce that we have one more free workshop tonight. We're going to do Purpose, Personal Power, and Commitment, and that is in Fort Lauderdale. Then we also have scheduled them for Sunday at the In the Room, hosted by intherooms.com at the BRT Addiction Treatment Services. And then we have two things scheduled at the South Florida Center for Jewish Renewal on February the 18th and the 23rd. And then March the 6th through the 11th, we have a full series at the Unity Church of Pompano Beach Oh, and tomorrow we're doing MindShifters and Still Point Breathing here in Fort Lauderdale. You can pick up flyers for all of those on our website, which is www.whyagain, that's WHYAGAIN.com. And we hope to see some of you. Let us know that you listen to us on the air when you come. One more time, the call-in number is 646-200-4169. And we're just now getting ready to start our second hour. So anybody have calls? Oh, our Skype caller is back. Michael, I think you're back on now too?
Awesome.
Okay.
Welcome back, Skype.
Hi, sorry about my terrible connection. I'm on a cell phone, and it's just really, really bad. But, yeah, I was just I really agreed with your statement about, how even physicists believe that, there's some presence, because I'm a college student, and even my science teachers have been talking about how there's like this energy that's inside all of us that they can't really put their finger on what it really is.
I hear you. The opening question that Jeannie will ask, she'll actually open the Wise is Happening Again workshop on Sunday at BRT in Pompano. And the opening question she'll ask is, how many have ever held a newborn child? And anybody who's held a newborn child doesn't have to think about the essence of the newborn child. They totally, completely, when they imagine once again holding a newborn, they totally, completely, once again experience that essence. They go directly to that without reference to the mind. It's just, whoa, what an awesome energy that is. And I'd offer that's the background noise. That's the background energy that's in all of us, the active presence of love. And you might share with your professors just that simple thing of imagine holding a newborn. Okay, there it is. That's what it is. And it's what we're all designed to function out of, and it's what the world tries to beat out of us right from, almost the first day. I mean, you think about a child coming into the world as the active presence of love, and the first thing it's done is it's grabbed by its ankles, a skin that's probably about as sensitive as third-degree burns, never having been touched before. Its spine, which has been twisted or bent into a very tight shape, all of a sudden is snapped out straight, and the temperature drops about 30 or 40 degrees, and all of a sudden a whack on the butt. And, it's interesting that in our culture, people are overjoyed when the baby screams. It's like, I've never been overjoyed at watching a baby scream. Why at birth is it different? It's a pretty bizarre way we bring people into the world and begin the process of pain right off the bat. I know that having birthed my own children at home, both of them, neither of them cried in the first hours of their birth. They just came in quietly, gently, and were there in this absolutely awesome space. And, the whole idea is to reclaim that sweetness and that awesome space of what exactly we are. Skype, who are we talking? What's your name and where are you calling from?
On a date.
I'm not sure.
What's your name and where are you calling from?
He's gone again.
Okay. Oh, okay. All right.
Okay, we do have another question now in the chat room. And It says, can you all talk a little bit about the inner peace tools that are available on the Why Again website?
Yes, sure can. The inner peace tools. Well, everything that we're doing is about achieving the state of inner peace. If we're not in the state of inner peace, it's because we're holding an energy in this so-called body-mind unit that doesn't belong in it. And every tool we teach, in an intensive, we'll oftentimes have people ask, well, how do I do this? What do I do about this? What do I do about that? And the answer is always all of the above, that when you utilize one of the tools, you start removing what never belonged that creates the disturbance. Now, there's a great line in the Course in Miracles that says, it is not the world that makes peace impossible. It is the world you see. And once you recognize that, the world you see comes from the content of your body-mind unit. It isn't what's actually happening out there. And so as you start to remove the aberrant content, everything starts to shift and change. David, Terry, do you have any thoughts on any of our discussion so far?
Well, I was waiting
to see if Terry.
Yep, I was waiting to see if Terry chimed in. giving him an opportunity. I keep my phone on mute so it takes a second for me to grab it and to get back.
Right.
You know, as you were saying that, I'm here at my son's place in Louisville, Kentucky, and it was just an absolute gorgeous day. And I'm looking outside, and when you were talking about letting go of and this is my interpretation of it, that forgiveness is really letting go of that carbon-based memories, that dissociative mind, the corrupt data. And when I can just be still, you know, that inner quietness, and I'm looking out the window, and it's just a gorgeous, gorgeous day, and I'm looking at the shapes of the different things, and to me that's one of those moments of inner peace, because I get to be focused on that rather than the conversations that are going on in my head, what I refer to as those conversations, that dialogue of just the corrupt data. So the tools, when you talk about all of the above, to me, often when I've asked that question and I've looked at it, it's because I'm usually at a stuck place, and it's like, how do I shift at this particular time? And I agree with you in that everything is based out of the reality management worksheet and doing the forgiveness. And for me, the most exciting tool that I've learned through you is breathing, because that's something that I can do at any moment, at any time. I can be driving, I can be whatever it is I'm doing. And as long as I focus on and practice doing a connected breath, and unfortunately we can't, that's something that really has to have an experience of. We could talk about it. Just to make a connected breath. And making the connected breath is the quickest, fastest way in order to shift from that. So using that as one of the tools when things are up is what I suggest.
Cool. Awesome, David. Awesome. That's good input. Terry, do you have any thoughts? Are you still with us, Terry?
No, he's not. But we do have another Skype caller.
All right, let's go to Skype.
Skype, you're on the air. Who do we have, and where are you calling from?
I'm not Kay. I don't know how. Did you ask Mr. Hale?
We can just barely hear you.
Friggin' fag. You want to make out or something?
Okay, you can cut that off, Jeannie. It's obviously
That was bad.
You have a blessed one. We got a prankster calling in on Skype today, so we'll have to communicate with Skype and see if we can have that removed, that game playing. So anyway, well, any other questions? Go ahead, David.
Michael, one of the things that I think everything that goes on in my life is an opportunity for me to learn something, and it's kind of like with this person that's calling in. My intuitive thought of it is that this person must just really be in some difficulties in a really challenging moment, and it's just one of the ways in order to avoid to keep from looking, from delving into it. So hold the space for this person that, take a look at the work and use this as an opportunity to recognize that something may be up and to check out the tools for letting go of that.
Yeah, for sure. It always amazes me when I look at some of the things that go on in the culture. For instance, things like spam and viruses that, when you get 30 pieces of mail from the same place, who would click on that mail? And it's people that sit around and have nothing to do but create trouble that costs other people thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours. It's like, where is being in that life? We're here to have a supportive, serious discussion, and where does it come in? Where does it make sense? Where does it fit? And so we are here to hold the space, and that expression
and Terry's
is
back on the air.
Hey, Terry, you got a thought to share with us?
I lost the call there for a few minutes, so I'm getting back in and catching back up. I missed the last couple of minutes here.
Okay, cool.
We were just sharing about someone had asked about the inner peace tools that were available on the website and how to use them. And then we had a prank caller call in, so we were just kind of talking about the people that do spam and things like that, and what they're searching for. I mean, there's got to be a pain there or something, and they're trying to fulfill it by doing crazy stuff sometimes.
Yeah, and of course the forgiveness process is one that applies there. One doesn't function through brain cells they don't have, and if the brain cells are, well, I'm going to be destructive to this. One of the things we get into in the workshop, Getting the Stress You Need, is we point out the filters in the mind, and through the hostility and fear filters in the mind, one takes their own internal data, and out of that data creates realities of either irritation or threat. And when that happens, what tends to happen is one cycles into aberrant behavior. And that's why in the ancient Aramaic, the first law was always that of maintain the condition of love in your mind. It wasn't, when they said love the Creator, love neighbor, love self, it didn't have to do with behavior toward the Creator, the neighbor, or self. It had to do with maintaining a condition in your mind. The word was actually rachma. And when we lose that condition of rachma, which is what assists us and supports us in maintaining a human life, then we function as that awesome presence that the newborn is. And when we're not functioning as that, okay, so we got work to do. Here we are. We're just humans, and here we are doing our work. It's all part of the process.
Well said. I was reminded.
Terry, do you have any?
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask Terry if you had any other thoughts about the discussion we had earlier. One of my thoughts was to kind of go over, and I'm not sure if the folks left on the line are 12-step. If you are, I think it would be kind of fun to go over the 12 steps in relationship to the forgiveness process we're going to teach on Sunday. Maybe those who are in the chat room could just type in 12-step, and we'd know. And if there's enough interest in it, then I'd go over how the steps relate to the forgiveness process directly. And if there's not an interest in that, if that's not people's interest, then we won't do that. Those who are calling in, you could maybe just hit a 1 if you don't really have a comment or a question, but you could hit a 1, and that will raise your hand in the queue. And then if you just, I don't know how to click off of it, though, I guess. I was just going to say if you click 1, then we'll know you're interested in hearing how the 12 steps relate to the forgiveness process, because I don't want to go into that if we've got a group that has an interest. So how's that looking on the switchboard, Jeannie?
I haven't seen anything change on the switchboard itself, but someone in the chat room says, if the Aramaic teachings were actually interpreted into another language, i.e. Greek, then what value does something like the Bible actually offer?
Well, of course, what we're working to do is to translate with first-century meanings the words that were spoken in Aramaic. And so what we're doing in working with the text we're working with, and it's called the Koboris manuscript. You can go on the website, whyagain.com, and click Koboris and learn more about it and see some of the material from it. We're working to get back to accurate, true interpretations. And some of the fun ones, for instance, the ones that I most enjoy are, for instance, in the Beatitudes, we're told that each of the Beatitudes start out with "Blessed are they," and there's no way to justify translating the word "tuvehun," which is a word that was used there, as "Blessed are they." It just doesn't relate. But when you go to the Aramaic and you see the deeper meaning, it's absolutely awesome. And it obviously must be an important concept, because here's Yeshua in his first public teaching, and he uses this word tuvehun, repeatedly. Obviously it has to be important stuff. And so the word tuvehun in Aramaic is a 3-part word, and it, rather than blessed are they, it more resembles a latent neural structure implanted by God to guide you to happiness and well-being, becomes your conscious possession, you who, and then each of the Beatitudes that follow is a set of tools for how to achieve that activation of, and it would tie right in with that question we had of inner peace, the activation of that state of inner peace, because it was planted in us from the beginning. We've just overlaid it with all the hostilities and fears of the world. We've taken on the thumbprints of the world, and forgiveness is how to remove the thumbprints so that we can get back to that original state. And so, the first beatitude classically is translated by the Greeks as, blessed are they blessed are the poor in spirit. And if you go to the Aramaic, you listen to this man named Yeshua, and he says that he's there to take you into a deeper connection with the Spirit of truth. And so how does it make sense to say poor in spirit when the man's about connecting us with Spirit? It doesn't make any sense. And this is one of the ways we know that the Aramaic came first, because we can point to several places where a simple fly speck on a piece of paper. You've heard the term jot or tittle. Well, in Aramaic, they were vowel markings. And depending where that just little fly speck was, it totally changed the meaning of the word. So in the Aramaic, the word is not the poor in spirit. The word is home, and a fly speck changes the word home to poor. And so here we have people trying to convince you somehow to be pure in spirit, when it's saying you want to have your home, and spirit there actually in Aramaic is in the eternal forces from God. So rather than being stuck in your 9-bit mind, you want to make your home in those eternal forces. That's the first beatitude. And that's one of the keys to resonating or activating the deeper state of inner peace that was given to us as our birthright and still resides in us. We don't have to go in and make it up. We don't have to fix it. We don't have to find it. All we have to do is throw the garbage out that's been laid on top of it. And the word forgiveness represents getting rid of that garbage that's been laid on top of it. So the Beatitudes are extremely powerful in giving us the how-to tools. And so that's some of the fun of the Aramaic, and those teachings in Aramaic are just so awesome. There are words that come about in the Aramaic, and it takes, as with the word tuvehum, it takes a whole paragraph to translate it. There are many words that there is no concept, there is no idea, there is no word for it in the Greek or the Latin or the Old English or the modern English. So we're creating paragraphs to take the place of a single word so that we get closer to the Aramaic meaning. And when you get there, it's awesome. For instance, there's a place where they ask Yeshua about the law, what's most important in the law. And they use a word that represents the customs of the people, the morals of the day. And Yeshua doesn't even refer to that word when he replies. He speaks a word that you can't distinguish in English or any of the precursor languages to our English scriptures. And the word he uses is representative of what you would call cause law. Not morals, not ethics, not the effect law, but cause law. And so he replies, he changes the word when he says, the most important thing in the Hopdani, the most important thing in the cause law becomes, it's like a major shift that you can't even see. It's invisible in the Greek. And of course the Greek, the whole Greek philosophy, if you look at it, the Greek gods were some pretty horrific dudes, rape your own mother, kill your own children. What does it matter? That's the model to be followed. And of course, we have a lot of people who are terrified of God, and I'd offer they're not terrified of God at all. They're terrified of the theological monstrosity created by the Greeks. I don't think there's an atheist in the world. Certainly lots of people who don't believe in the theological monstrosity created by the Greeks. But when you go to the Aramaic, you hear Yeshua speaking of this our Father, not his Father, but our Father, and describes it as a power whose good pleasure it is to give us the kingdom that's closer than hands and feet, and whatever you ask for, you get it before you even ask. That's a pretty awesome power, certainly not one to be afraid of. And, many people have heard from the pulpit, fear God. But I say to the person who says fear God, it's like, whose name are you saying that in? And most people who talk about fearing God will say, well, Jesus, of course. I say, well, the last time I talked to him, he told me the first law was love God. Why are you talking about fearing God? What universe does that make sense in? It makes total sense in the Greek universe where the gods were to be trembled at and feared. But in Aramaic it says have awe for God, and it's a whole different process. It's a whole different mindset. And so what we're looking to do is to reestablish that mindset from the Aramaic back into our culture, because in it are the keys and the tools to sanity.
Awesome.
And of
Michael,
course, that's the sanity of all of us.
I was just going to say, you've gotten a couple of flags. Yes, let's do the 12 steps. So I'd say go for it.
Okay. Cool, let's do it. Unless there are any other questions there or any other calls?
I don't have any others.
Let's do it. And Terry and David, if you have any thoughts to add as I go through this. So the first step in the AA program is we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. And what we point out in the Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop is that when we're in denial, literally, we create a dissociated mind. We lose contact with the part of our mind that now holds our pain and our aberrant behavior, our character defects. So they're locked away. The minute we go into denial, we create this dissociated mind. And that dissociated mind, we are powerless to change it. We cannot reason through it. We can make all the new choices that we want. If you look at this step, you'll see a fellow named Paul 2,000 years ago that was totally locked into his powerlessness. Because here's this man who's done all this awesome writing about love, and then he says, why is it the things I would do, I cannot do, and the things I hate are what I do? He didn't know he had a dissociated mind. Once you realize that and you understand Aramaic forgiveness, you can collapse the dissociated mind and clean it up. Otherwise, you're absolutely powerless over it. And it is the Creator, which we'll get into in a later state, that will help you to process through that. So that's kind of how the first step ties in. Thoughts, David or Terry?
Michael, this is Terry.
Yes, sir. Go for it.
One point I wanted to offer around the 12-step focus of this conversation, this dialogue we're having today, is that a few years back, about 10 or 12 years back, I came across Ann Wilson Schaef's work, When Society Becomes an Addict.
Right.
And she was using her, in her words, what she was describing in the way that we talk about it today is that pretty much everybody in the society is dissociated. She didn't use that word. This is the word that you've worked with and has brought forth, and I just made this connection. To our whole society has become dissociated, and we use anything, television, drugs, sex, alcohol, whatever it is, busyness, work, meetings, telephone calls, it goes on and on and on. So like our society as a whole is an addict in the broader sense of the word, dissociated from our beingness is what we're talking about here. So looking at it from that perspective and what they offered it, I went to a couple of her intensives or workshops too, and they had a big table and there was all these 12-step books, and so you'd pick a meeting, whatever issue was up for someone at the time, they grabbed the book from that particular fellowship and you dig into it from that perspective. So the 12-step tools aren't for necessarily just for people who are in crises. The 12 steps work for enhancing quality of life for everyone. So I wanted to put it out there to look at it from a broader perspective of how these tools can benefit us as a society as a whole.
Yeah, I agree with you, Terry. The fellow who wrote the book I referred to when we first started this conversation, We're All Doing Time. One of the things that I point out in our codependence to interdependence workshop is that when we go into this state of denial, we've hidden a part of our minds from ourselves, and that part that we've hidden literally is no longer available to us. And if we don't know it's there, what automatically happens because of the mechanics of the mind, and that's something that we'll explain on Sunday in the Why Is This Happening to Me Again, because of the mechanics of the mind, that hidden part runs our lives. and is not changeable. It is, until we come back into relationship with it directly, it simply can't be changed. It's absolutely impossible. And so when one does not have tools with which to remove that pain, that aberrant behavior, what happens is sooner or later, in order to get some relief, people are going to fall into some form of addiction. Once you begin to collapse that painful content, you no longer need an anesthetic. The addictions start to drop away. They automatically start to disappear. And whatever that addiction is, and yes, our whole culture has become addicted. If you go into a so-called food store, it's almost impossible today to find actual food that isn't laced with drugs, from chemicals to sugar to caffeine to, just all sorts of different drugs. Really, in some cases, some very deadly drugs. I met a woman yesterday that was sitting, and she was kind of overweight and was working to deal with her weight, and she's got herself a soda drink filled with aspartame, and has no idea what kind of a poison that is, has no idea the history of aspartame, and has no idea that it kills the apostat that tells people when they're full. So here they're promoted to drink this drink. It has no sugar in it. There are no calories in it, so look how great it's going to be for you. But it kills the apostat, so your body can't tell you when you're full, so you overeat. The culture's just so loaded with drugs. And, people say, well, then our diseases are caused by these things. No, these things are symptoms of our disease. And when you start recognizing that and you become willing to turn it over, you become willing to take a hold of it and look it right square in the face. It's not an easy thing to do, to take those generational aberrant behaviors and character defects and look them right square in the face. That's why people become addicted, because it's too painful to look in the face of it. But once you've got the forgiveness technology that comes out of the Aramaic, and it is a real honest-to-God step-by-step technology, a very reliable way to collapse the projections and the dissociated mind, and there you are, right face-to-face with whatever's been hidden there. And when you do that, when you start letting go of that, all of a sudden the need for the addictive substance or the addictive behavior disappears. And I define addiction in this work. We give this quote or this definition of addiction when we do our codependence workshop, and that is that addiction is the compulsive use of any substance, circumstance, person, or activity to do one of two things: to either anesthetize or shut down our guidance, because our guidance system comes from above, comes from a higher place, and it's always guiding us to the highest behavior possible. But if out of my lower mind I've already decided to do something lower, I don't want to hear that guidance. So one of the reasons I've found in my work over the years for addiction is to anesthetize or to shut that voice up so we don't have to listen to it and we don't have the stress of those two voices going on inside. And the other one is simply to anesthetize pain. And once you start undoing, coming face to face, which is what forgiveness does, with the cause of your pain, then you can change it. We've all heard the alcoholic that did this crazy, horrible thing the night before, and the next morning he or she is so repentant. It's like, oh, that's so terrible. I feel so awful. I don't know. I can't even imagine that I did that, and I'm so sorry, and I'll never do it again. And we've all heard the person who said those words, and we know they were absolutely sincere. But it doesn't matter how sincere you are that you're never going to do it again. If that behavior is in the dissociated mind, by saying, I'm never going to do it again, you haven't changed the root of the behavior. And what happens is when the stress is up and the chips are down, that behavior is going to come back out again. It's like, imagine you've got a lemon, and you don't know anything about a lemon. You just see this yellow skin, you smell it, and you look at it. You don't know what's inside of it until you squeeze it. We know exactly what's inside of us when we get squeezed, when the stress is up and the chips are down. Paul knew that there were things he hated to do. And in essence, he says, when the stress is up and the chips are down, Why is it I can't do what I want to do and I'm stuck with this aberrant behavior? Why is it I do what I hate? Because he didn't know how to get into and clean out his own dissociated mind. If he'd paid enough attention to the Aramaic Yeshua, he'd have known exactly how to do that. He'd have never said such a thing. And so, but our whole culture is trained in denial and the pretense that it's all everybody else's fault. So there's no relief from pain. In actual Aramaic forgiveness, there is relief from pain.
Awesome.
And so with the first step, then the first step is related to, because in order to shift that mind, I have to acknowledge that that mind isn't giving me the correct answer.
Right, and a signal.
That's right. Yep. And so and the stronger that the resistance to acknowledging that there's something else that's going on, it increases the stress. A simple statement of that, and again, there's 12 steps to it. There's not just one. And what I've discovered for myself and from other folks, of the biggest challenge is to do the first step, and that's why they get to do the first step. Without that, then the other ones aren't going to make any sense at all. So that's
exactly
okay.
Yeah, and the marker that tells you that there is something that you're powerless over is any form of hostility or fear produced in the physiology. If your physiology is producing some form of hostility or fear, that's telling you that you've put pain into your cellular structure. The hostility or fear is your cell yelling at you saying, there's something in here you need to get out. And until we recognize that, what will happen, because of the way the mind works, and we'll demonstrate that in the workshop on Sunday at BRT in Pompano, the way that works is that when that cell is yelling, but we've denied direct access to it, we create a projection. We create a picture of how it's all somebody else's fault. And forgiveness is how you collapse that once you start to suspect, I've lost part of my mind, a contact with part of my mind that holds my pain and aberrant behavior. I'm now powerless over it. First step. Once you do that, then you can recognize that there is a power, and that's the second step, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. In Aramaic, that power was called Rukut Kudsha. And it is a literal, actual elemental force in Aramaic. What they define it as is a literal, actual, feminine elemental force in us that when we turn our lives over to it, undoes the effects of our errors and teaches us the truth. And literally, the Creator put in us from the beginning, according to the Aramaic, the second step. There's a power in you that will do it. However, you've got free will, and that power will never violate your free will. If you choose to never have that changed in you, that power will say, hey, you got my support, I'll leave you right in it as long as you want to be there. But once you ask, and again, it's interesting to see how the Greeks interpreted these teachings through fear. You hear, and over the years I've worked with many people who lived in terror that they were going to some fiery place for eternity because they had what in the Greek culture was called denied or blasphemed the Holy Spirit. And what it says is in the Greek, it says that's the unforgivable sin. Well, if you go back to the Aramaic, it's not fear-based, it's not a threat, and it's not that there's anything that's unforgivable. What it says is the error of not asking the higher power in leaves you in unforgiveness. People who can't acknowledge a higher power can't ask, and I like to use kind of computer language, people who can't bring the superprocessor in can't have the superprocessor impact their minds. The Creator gave us a superprocessor, but you got free will. If you blaspheme it, as they said, the Greeks translated, if you speak against it, if you deny its existence and won't invite it in, then you can't change that part of your mind. It's such a massive thing that's been accumulated generationally that you can't possibly get a hold of it and work through it with the 9-bit mind. So the second step, the way it fits with, and it ties into step 5B on our worksheet. And if anybody's online and you want to jump on our website, you could download the worksheet real quick. Pardon me. and go through it with us step by step if you'd like, but this is step number 5B. Pardon me. This is step number 5B on the worksheet, that you invite that power in to undo the defect and restore you to sanity. So that's how the reality management worksheet, again, if you want to pick it up on the website, it's www.why.com. And you can click over on the right-hand side. There's a link that says Download Worksheets. I believe it's the second item on the list, Jeannie. It's the 7-step worksheet, and you can pull it down, and that's what we're referring to and will refer to through the rest of the 12 steps. So then number 3, we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. And in step 4 on the worksheet, we point out that our original being is love, and when we disconnect from that, we're in trouble. You know, that newborn, everybody in the culture, everybody in the world describes the newborn as love. So our original being is the active presence of the love of God. That's the stuff we're made of. And I tell in that step when I do the worksheets, I tell the story about the rose and the butterfly. You know, let's imagine we've got a rose and a butterfly. We give them each an ego. They meet, they fall in love. They have this wonderful time together. But one day the butterfly up and flies away. The rose, knowing that the love of the butterfly is the most important thing in its life, uproots itself to give chase. What happens to that rose when it uproots itself? It obviously dies. Why? Because it made something more important than being connected to its source. And so comparable to made a decision to turn our will and lives over in step 3 in the 12 steps is step 4 in the reality management worksheet process, where you connect to your original being instead of your upset, and once again you ask that elemental force, that which was in Aramaic called Ruka Dukudsha, to be there for support and assistance. So there are actually 2 parts of the reality management process that tie into the 3rd step. And the 4th step made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Well, every worksheet that you do is designed to be a fearless and moral inventory. And, of course, the fearless inventory is going to uncover the parts of you you've been covering up. And what happens is with each worksheet that you do, when you get to the core of the forgiveness process, is you cancel, you uncover the core of that particular defect, that particular issue. You start to see things about yourself that previously weren't visible, and that's when they become changeable. And what we do with this work is we suggest that people do a minimum of 5 of these worksheets a day. And that means that 5 times a day you're doing a fearless searching moral inventory, and it just opens parts of the mind that, you know, in many cases have been hanging around and hiding for generations and generations. Terry was sharing with me recently, he'd been working with David, who invented the game called Building the Brain Cells, which we'll talk about in a couple of steps, and that he had started out with doing 1 worksheet a day as a commitment to David and to himself, to his process and his work, and then upped his commitment to 5 worksheets a day. And Terry, you were just sharing with me recently that you'd upped your commitment to 10 worksheets a day. Do you want to just briefly share with us why you did that? Why would you do such a thing, Terry? I mean, you've been doing this for 7 years now. Why are you now doing 10 worksheets a day? What sense does that make?
Well, it doesn't make any sense to the mind. It doesn't want to look at anything. It makes sense by the experiences that I had. I can talk about it all day long. Well, the experiences that I had, deepening relationships with my mom, my children, everyone that I come in contact with, my relationships have gotten to the point where they have a better quality. And my quality of life, my thinking, just the benefits that came about from doing that process.
Well, Terry, you know, you've been doing the worksheet process for the last 7 years, and about 3 years ago, I think it was, you made the commitment with David to do 1 a day, and then up to 5, then up to 10. And I know that you recently went and spent some time with your mom. And it was really cool that she has been on the call several times, and that she started doing worksheets. And you want to share some of what your experiences are around just around that thing with Mom, as you've chosen to go to deeper and deeper levels of your work and do more and more worksheets.
Yeah, I actually spent the first Christmas with my mom that I'd spent since I was a kid. And
you say you spent the first Christmas, this previous Christmas that just went by?
Yeah, this one that just went by with, actually to be there overnight for Christmas with my mom at her place is the first time that had happened in 30 years, or more. And
awesome.
So, yeah, and I spent some time with her, and we got into meaningful dialogues and discussions about life, the way it works, things that have happened in our family that are some of the insane generational stuff that could be looked at from a perspective of information as opposed to fault, guilt, and blame and shame. But look at this! Wow, look at this information here. Look what's in the history here of not only our family but every family. And of course, we're looking at our family because that's the one we're right in the middle of, and to be able to hold the space for each other through those traumas. And there was plenty of traumas, that was occurred through the childhood and her childhood and stuff, and to be a part of. She just recently celebrated her 80th birthday, and we would sit there and go through a few of these things, and because of the amount of work that's been done over the years, there was a way to move through it with love. There didn't have to be a lot of pain. Yeah, some pain came up. Were there a few tears? Yes, but that was a pain of release. It wasn't a pain of locking in and locking down the trauma and drama. It was a pain
of doing the why is this happening to me again?
Yeah.
It wasn't the pain of the why is this happening to me again, but the pain of getting in touch directly with the dissociated mind and letting go of it?
That's exactly it, yeah.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So the fourth step, that searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves, each worksheet is an inventory, and what we suggest you do is at least 5 worksheets a day for eternity, because what will happen, it becomes a very deeply comprehensive worksheet, or moral inventory, because you're directly going into the dissociated mind and confronting that directly 5 times a day. And what we suggest is that just like you choose to take a bath every day, or you take a shower every day, there's nobody that says, well, I've showered 8,220 times in my life, so I'm never going to have to shower again. It's like, you're going to stink if you don't shower in the next couple of days. Well, it's the same with this fearless and searching moral inventory, that when you do the worksheet process, you're continuously going into the dissociated part of your mind, taking an inventory of it, and cleaning it up. And we suggest with this worksheet that you do an ongoing eternal inventory daily. So that ties right in again with the fourth step. And
Michael?
Yes, David.
Yeah. When Terry was commenting about the relationship with his children and with his mom and with other people, I had the thought, and what my comment to Terry is, and what about your relationship with yourself? Because to me, that is what plays a significant role in continuously committed and willing to do the worksheets, to do the work period.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a really powerful one. The difference that you feel about the man in the glass when you look at him is night and day.
As
yeah,
the song goes.
The other stuff possible.
We got a little overlap here. Technology, folks, just forgive us. Go ahead, Terry.
I said none of the other things are possible without that.
Yep, absolutely. And David, you had another comment about that too?
Well, and notice that that's always the last one that gets left out. That's the one that seems to get left out. Thank you, God. Yep. Thank you, Mom. Thank you, Dad. Oh, wait a minute. What about the man in the mirror? I'm starting with the man in the mirror as it goes, because that's where it's all at. I mean, when we look at all of that. And, if that doesn't get acknowledged within eventually, that's where all the blame, the shame, the guilt, everything is going to resonate from. And the truth is that, if all of a sudden, and I've seen this happen with many people as well as with myself, to carry a grudge about some anger or hostility with someone, and then all of a sudden that person become ill, or that something happens with that person, and everything that was blocking it now is gone. It's removed. It's like, let me be there for that person. And I think that when there's enough work that's done, that it resonates within itself, have love for God, neighbor, and self. And as everyone has heard on more than one occasion, who's the biggest critic of all, of ourselves. So I think it's important that focus is made.
Definitely. And that takes us right into the fifth step, which is admitting to God, to ourselves, and another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. And the reality management worksheet, if you've downloaded it, or if you're going to come and join us Sunday, or please go to the website and get it. The first step in the reality management worksheet, is that it brings to awareness the projected feelings, thoughts, and punishment. And the projection is usually we're doing a worksheet on ourselves or someone else, and we've projected the content of the dissociated mind on them. So you might look at, yesterday I was talking to Harry, and he, turned his nose up at me and spurned me. So that first step would be, Harry spurned me, and the feelings are, well, I'm enraged and I'm hurt, and the thoughts are, Harry doesn't care for me. What's my punishment? Well, I want to spurn him back. And what we offer in that workshop is that all those things that your mind shows you about someone else are literally, totally, completely, directly a projection of your own defects, the exact nature of your own behavior. You can go all the way back to the book of Romans, where it says, beware you who judge another, for that in which you judge another, you have been guilty of practicing. The content is in one's own dissociated mind, and that dissociated mind projects. So in the first step in the reality management process, you lay that out honestly, truly, there it is. And then once you do the forgiveness step, which happens in number 5, all of a sudden you collapse the projection and you start to see the root of your projections directly. And then with that higher power's help, you bring those defects forward in the presence of love, and they simply begin to dissolve and melt. The behaviors that come from them simply disappear. So it gives a way to go directly to the dissociated mind and change its content and change the behaviors, the decisions, and the pains that are hidden there, as opposed to the game of, well, I forgave them, I forgave myself, I've forgiven them, I've forgiven myself. Yeah, but notice you've been through this 87 different times. When do you get finished with it? You get finished with it when you collapse the projection, you go into the dissociated mind, which is exactly what true Aramaic forgiveness does, and takes you into that. And so you look at the nature of your wrongs directly through the forgiveness process in Aramaic, and then you're able to share that with another person. And one of the things we suggest that you do is form communities of support around these tools. We call them MindShifters support groups. And in those communities, you can effectively have feedback from someone who doesn't have the same blockage as you do. And so having the benefit of community, that wonderful African proverb that says, if you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. You've got support for breaking through your own blockages of truth. And David built a thing called Building the Brain Cells, which is a game where you have a commitment to someone, and the idea of partnering with someone to support you in that and inviting others to play the game becomes really, really powerful. You want to say just a little bit? We've got about 15 minutes left and 5 steps, David. You want to say a little bit about building the brain cells?
Sure. Yeah, always glad to give some insight to that. And it's actually, the game came through me in this way that from my experiences and what I've been taught from different people, and is that on my own, I won't do the work that it is that I say that I'm going to do. My carbon-based memory, my dissociative mind, that I'll say I want to do something, and then when I don't do that, it opens up yet another venue, another opportunity for me to beat myself up and or to make yet another commitment. And it's just a challenge. It's just a challenge for me to make an agreement with myself that I'm going to do something and then not keep it. When I have someone that's willing to play and to support me in a healthy way of acknowledging my level of willingness and participation, and then I get to build it on myself. I get to acknowledge it. When I have someone that I've told them that I'm going to do something, in this culture, within a lot of the times there's excuses and reasons and justifications for everything. Oh, I'm late. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't do this. I didn't do that. And this is about really taking a stand to say, you know what, I'm going to do this. It's like exercising anything. So the purpose of the game is to want to learn how to make agreements that I'm willing to keep, and then for me to keep the agreements through an acknowledgement, and that in itself begins to build on a neural net in the brain to trust this part that I'm going to do what it is that I say that I'm going to do. And as soon as you start to begin, as soon as you make the commitment to do that, every resistance that's ever kept you from doing anything is going to come up. So this supports in lots and lots of different ways versus just doing the worksheet. It supports people in making commitments to do anything. One of the things that Terry did, and this may sound a little bit strange to some folks, is that after we do this, we're just building onto this. He made an agreement to exercise for 5 minutes each day. 5 minutes. Now the mind, what's 5 minutes? What's 5 minutes? The most important thing is that he made the agreement, and within a couple of weeks, he was doing 15 minutes, and then he was doing 30 minutes, and then he was walking 5 miles a day. Now I'm going to get it all, but it began with that initial little piece. So that, in essence, is what the game is about. You're welcome to go onto the site, take a look at it. There's a PowerPoint presentation, and we'll talk about more at another time.
Yeah, cool. So the building the brain cells is something that you register for by a 40-day period. It's $1 a day, so it's $40 for 40 days. And over the years of doing this, so I've been doing this work, developing this work for a little better than 40 years, and 25 specifically doing this worksheet process. And what I've noticed is people come to the workshop, they get all excited, oh, yeah, man, I'm going to do this. But then as soon as they start to come in contact with the dissociated mind, they very quickly back off. It's like, no, I didn't sign up for this. I didn't say I wanted to experience this. And most people won't go through it on their own. They'll quit. And I've seen people come back 10 years later in desperate pain going, tell me that again. I know I need to do this. What is it? Where what David's created is this commitment, and basically you are texting at the end of the day or emailing that you've completed your commitment for the day. And then on Sunday nights, there's a specific phone call, a conference call to people who are in the game to create support for each other, ask questions, and get support. So it's a really awesome tool, David, that you've created. And the people who've engaged in it, I've seen whole new levels of power and shift and change happening in their lives. And I certainly appreciate that you created that and made it a gift to Heartland that supports Heartland and supports people in their healing process. It's awesome.
Well, you're welcome, Michael. And to let folks know that at the same time, yes, if you really want some transformation, if you're really wanting to make some shifts, sign up to do the 40 days for 5 worksheets a day. And there's another element as well, too. You can sign up for 10 days and then re-sign up after that and do 1 worksheet a day. You see, this is about you and your level of commitment, because to the degree that you're willing to make an agreement and keep it is the degree that your life is going to work. And we're here to support you. You may not be your level of willingness versus your level of resistance may be so out of balance, or not so much out of balance that they are out of balance that 1 worksheet is what you can do. So experiment with it. So, do it for 10 days. I mean, what's 10 days? So that then you start to begin that neural network that Michael is talking about, that you connect with that source that's within you in order to strengthen it. You wouldn't go out and start and do a marathon, and here I'm in Louisville, Kentucky, and I'm thinking about the marathon. I remember when I ran in what's called the mini marathon here, 13 and a half miles. The Wednesday before, it's run on the Saturday before the Kentucky Derby, or a couple of weeks before the Kentucky Derby, and it's 13 and a half miles. On that Wednesday, I made a bet with my father-in-law at the time that I would run that, and I had never run before in my life. I did it. I walked the majority of that. I was in bed for a week after that. The next year,
you didn't train or anything?
I didn't train at all. The next year, I trained for it. The next year, I ran the entire thing, ran it in under 2 hours, and then afterwards, an hour afterwards, I was out playing basketball with the rest of the group. Now, because I built myself up, I trained for it. Right. So the purpose of the game is to support you. There's no right or wrong way of doing it. It is about getting support in making it happen.
Awesome, cool. So then in the 6th step, it says we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. And again, the step 5B in the reality management worksheet is I invite that, in Aramaic it was ruku dekuja, that elemental force in us that was given to, in Aramaic it specifically says, undoes the effects of our errors and teaches us the truth. And so here, in this step, it's to restore me and make me aware of and remove my denied and hidden parts, to get free of those. And that's what removes those defects of character. And the worksheet just zeroes you right into the core of it, where as long as we're, I want this to happen, I want this to happen, I want this to happen, this step becomes a tool for how to make it happen. And it just takes you right to the core of that and assists you in being able to turn it over and let go of it. So that's the 6th step. 7th step, humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. Well, in Aramaic, it's actually a feminine force, so we asked her, but same process. It's like, I'm ready to deal with this. Now I've collapsed my dissociated mind. I've collapsed my projections. Oh, my God, what I'm looking at is terrible. It's painful. It's hurtful. It's sad. It's grief-filled. And now I'm going to ask that super processor, that power in me, to go to work and support me in letting that loose, letting that go. And it's awesome as you take that additional little step and put it in there and do it. At any time, David or Terry, you have a comment? We've got about, I think 8 minutes left, so we've got a couple more steps. Let me move on to number 8. Made a list of all persons we'd harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Well, 5 worksheets a day, and in each situation where you're doing your fearless searching moral inventory, each worksheet does that, is it gives you a way to remove the goal you held for that object of attention, whoever you're doing the worksheet on, and as you remove that goal, you let go. That's how you remove the projections. That's how you get back into the dissociated mind. And so with the worksheet process, when you take on 5 a day or even 1 a day, then you're doing that on a regular basis, ongoing. And then the last step is that you set a new goal toward them. So the first part of it is you look at the goal you had for them, and that goal is what caused your mind to use the dissociated self to project, and now at the last step, the seventh step in the worksheet, is you set a new goal toward them. And that new goal has to do with cleaning up and repairing whatever's been done, making amends if that's what's appropriate, communication or what have you, to everybody that's been harmed. And then step number nine.
Michael, beg your pardon. There's something here that came to me. One of the things that the mind wants to do, at least mine is like this. If I have to do a worksheet on everybody and everything that I have ever done, and what's magical about doing this work is that I can do one sheet. I can do a worksheet on a person, place, thing, event, present, past, future. I can do one or two worksheets, and when I really tap into and do my work, it releases lots of things that I'll never have to look at on an unconscious level. And I think that that's important because the mind, because it's important to know that all we're doing is really creating this connection to where that when something comes up, even at an unconscious level, so that when a person's doing a worksheet and they heal something with a particular person they're doing the worksheet on, they've healed it in many areas as well.
Yeah, very, very great point there, David, that it really collapses things all the way back through. And, of course, this is just one tool that we've developed. We've got several dozen tools. This is one of the core tools. But then when you go to the still point breathing, it's tomorrow actually here in Fort Lauderdale. If anybody's interested, we're doing a MindShifters and still point breathing workshop. It's an all-day deep process-oriented workshop, and it just goes in and moves masses of those old energies. We've just got a couple of minutes left. Let me go on to step 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. So that's, again, step number 7 in the reality management process. You're setting a new goal toward them, and the new goal might be, I really need to go and communicate with them and clean it up. I deprive them of something. I need to go and restore them. It just ties right in with the 9th step. And then the 10th step, continue to take a personal inventory where we were promptly admitted it. And as Terry said earlier, as we were talking about this one on the phone, his insight was, this is a 10th step tool, this worksheet. And that is that when you do it every day, you're washing your mind every day, and you're taking a continuous eternal inventory. And just like for eternity, if you had your so-called physical body for eternity, you'd scrub it and wash it every day. And as you have your mind for eternity, you scrub it and wash it every day. Continuous, ongoing process. So this fits perfectly in with the 10th step. The 11th step, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. And our whole body of work that we've developed is about how to get back into that relationship we were designed to be in from the beginning. And one of the things I love to share with people, which usually opens people's eyes on a whole new level, is to share the Aramaic definition of prayer. And, of course, through the Greek culture, we're taught that prayer is put your order into the cosmic gift catalog, tell God what God should be doing for you today. But in Aramaic, the word prayer actually means, and it's a shocker for most people at first, it means to set a trap for God. And you go, set a trap for God? What sense does that make? Well, when you think of yourself as an energetic being and that this whole universe is made of energy, it starts to make perfect sense. I happen to have a background in electronics with a side study in physics, so this one was particularly meaningful to me. And, knowing how television sets work, we've got a TV. Of course, most people don't have them anymore, but had TV antennas on the roof. And that TV antenna, if it was oriented properly, if it was the right shape, received, if you want to watch Channel 3, you received Channel 3 perfectly because that antenna was set properly. It was a trap for that energy of Channel 3. And in precisely the same way, your physiology is an antenna meant to trap and give a place for the love of God to show up in the world. That's what humans are designed for. 12th step, we've just got a few seconds left, have a spiritual awakening, and as a result of these steps, try to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. So, of course, the one thing that we do with this work is Jeannie and I travel 6 to 10 months of the year. You can jump on our website to look at the schedule. We're in Fort Lauderdale doing a series. We'll be in Pompano in 2 weeks. Tomorrow in Pompano Sunday in Pompano at In the Rooms, sponsored workshop at BRT. And, our invitation is always, please take this, share it with someone else. The book's on our website, free, videos, audios, all kinds of stuff. The goal is to take this to every mind, heart, and being on the planet. And we join with everybody who's in the recovery world to take this sanity to the whole world. We're all doing time. We're all in recovery. We're in this together. And together we are creating the best year yet of our eternal lives. And together we are shifting the dynamics of the world. Have the best year yet of your eternal life and know that you are dearly cherished. Blessings.